Well, we continue taking reaction on the State of the Nation address last night by the president of the country, President Cyril Ramaphosa. And there's just so much to discuss, there's so much to unpack, and sometimes we cannot do justice in a matter of a few minutes. But taking a look at some of the economic reactions to the State of the Nation address, and this morning we are talking with economist Reezwana Sumad. Reezwana, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Jummah Mubarak, and welcome to the show.
Walaikum salam. Jazakallah for having me.
Yes, just looking at the president and what had happened last night, now, apart from the shenanigans that were playing out before his address and the booting of the EFF once again, which was expected, there's just so much more that one can actually look or read into the situation. We've heard about the national state of disaster. We've heard about another ministry, the Minister of Electricity, and all of this put together, the business community is watching with interest. Just your initial thoughts. How much confidence did that speech last night actually give to the business community?
Yeah, I think there's quite a bit of concern with regards to load shedding, and we see that the president quickly got to the issue of load shedding. However, I don't think that with the announcement of the state of the disaster and a new and yet another new ministry, that businesses at this stage are quite confident about the government's ability to be able to address the problem. It's not like we haven't seen this coming with regards to a worsening outlook for the electricity grid. And so one has to question as to, firstly, the timing of that stage of the disaster. Secondly, do we need yet another person to be able to take charge and address the crisis that we're in, and how effective the government is going to be this time around with regard to addressing the problem of the lack of electricity that is hindering economic growth, employment, and prosperity in the country. So I think there's concerns all round, despite some of the announcements and the developments that was announced at yesterday's SONA.
Yes, in fact, some have actually listened to the SONA, and they've analyzed it as many of the promises that the president has made in the past that haven't come to fruition, and just another set of new promises.
Yeah. The one thing to note from yesterday's SONA is that President Ramaphosa was very candid in terms of all of the issues, some of the successes over the past year, but also highlighting where they have fell short. And I thought that was a very honest sort of look at the progress or lack of progress made by the government over the past year or so. So he was very, very candid and truthful about the aspects that they've actually went backwards with regards to the energy grid, with regards to not achieving that social compact that they would have liked last year. So several areas where he indicated that they're still focusing their attention on, particularly with regards to youth employment and infrastructure development. So yes, a new set of promises that I think builds on from some of the failures of the past year in terms of government implementation. And I think it's very difficult, or I think quite outrageous to expect one person, being the president himself, to be able to implement everything that was outlined in any of the zonas last year or this year. So it does take a huge team effort, and when bulk of the team is not sort of playing ball, then you are likely to see some of the failures in the state that we have come to become used to over the past year.
Well, Rizwana, he's added now an extra member to his team with the creation of the Ministry of Electricity, and the concern is about duplicating or even triplicating the effort, because you've got the Ministry of Minerals and Energy, you've got now Praveen Gordhan, of Public Enterprises, and I'm not too sure what his role is actually going to be. Is it going to be the unbundling of ESCOM? Is this still going to take place? And now you've got the Minister of Electricity, whose role at this point in time still hasn't been clearly defined. So with all the duplication and triplication, again, there are concerns as to who is going to be ultimately responsible to get us out of this situation that we find ourselves in.
Yeah, this is very typical of the presidency, I guess, over the past 5 years, whereby he sort of transfers accountability within his own presidency in terms of trying to rebuild many organs of the state. State security is one of them, and so we see him now migrating to that play again with regards to housing the Minister of Presidency within his own presidency, so within his own direct oversight. And that tells me two things. One is that the president has lost a little bit of confidence in terms of the department, be it the Department of Mineral Resources or Energy, or the Corporate Governance Ministry, or the Department of Public Enterprises, to be able to sort out the energy issues that we have. And so that hence he's trying to get it directly in terms of his own oversight within his own presidency. However, we don't really need, another person to be able to address the problem. He has indicated that there's significant, plans to be able to procure more energy, outlining the state of disaster in terms of indicating regulation is also causing a bit of a lag in terms of them getting more energy, procuring more energy. But at this stage, given the very slow-moving government that we have had over the past 5 years, sort of this disaster or the state of disaster war has been developing and intensified. So it is quite a bit of concern as to, firstly, why do we need another presidency, another minister, rather, and who that person is going to be? Because, in all honesty, Greta Mantashe is the most powerful politician there, and he has had oversight of ESCOM for a number of years now, and the transformation of the energy mix, and still we in a sort of a worse off outcome right now than we were before he was placed in the ministry. So it is quite a bit of concern as to who the person will be and whether we actually need another person to be able to turn the ESCOM ship around.
Yes, and I think many of us are expressing concern as to the national state of disaster because we would have loved to see him expand a lot more on the national state of disaster. Although he tried to give some level of assurance and comfort by saying there will be independent oversight with the Auditor General, and trying to say that we're not going to be repeating what happened during the COVID era as far as the national state of disaster goes, Rizwana.
Yeah, my take with regards to the national state of disaster, you see government's desperation a little bit here. The last state of disaster, there was significant corruption and leakage from the public purse. There was no oversight with regards to how funds were spent, even though the president promised at the start of that state of disaster that there won't be any corruption. And with a little bit of deja vu now, we're in another state of disaster with more promises that public funds will be spent correctly with the direct oversight of the Auditor General. From the state of disaster, I guess the key factors here, it will enable government to exempt critical infrastructure from load shedding. So, for example, hospitals will also allow government departments to circumvent regulation that has been slowing down the process of procuring new power. And I think those are the key. Also, it will also allow government to be able to deploy more sort of police security personnel into the power stations to be able to limit sabotage or destruction of public infrastructure. So those are some of the key things that will rather enable the government to do with regards to the state of disaster. But I think the big concern from a public perspective is whether the funds, government funds and tax revenues will be spent correctly, because we do know that the Auditor General themselves, as a department, have been threatened by criminal elements, outside forces threatening the safety of some of the Auditor General employees. So, big concern there as to whether this is going to be a repeat of the last state of disaster that we had.
Well, Rizwana, just finally, how much confidence does this, and as an economist yourself, how much confidence does this give to the business world? And for three reasons. One is the president went at great length talking about social compact. He also spoke a lot about the projects as far as electricity is concerned, and placing a lot of reliance on the business community to partner with government as far as these projects are concerned. The second issue he spoke about is Treasury and its involvement as far as getting ESCOM out of this debt cycle of 400 billion. And the third issue, Rizwana, is he spoke about the investment summit and hopeful of 2 trillion, because he has been throwing out numbers. And it would be interesting to see how the business world would react to to these statements that he's made, and also in terms of confidence in assisting or partnering with government with regard to these
Yeah.
projects.
Yeah, I think what was quite positive was the mention that households and businesses will be supported by, tax breaks or other forms of financial support from national treasury, in order to invest in rooftop solar and other forms of power. So that was quite positive. We know that national treasury is currently working on more fiscal support for for ESCOM rather. That will be announced in the budget, and that likely to alleviate some cash flow constraints within ESCOM itself. And we do know that even last year, the president announced his electricity plan or power plan, whereby one of the areas was that enable private investment in own generation. And that was a significant announcement last year. And I think, of all of the plans from last year, Sona, and this year, that was the most significant change with regards to allowing the private sector to generate their own electricity, and that is just going to increase over the next year, given that ESCOM's own power supply is deteriorating. With regards to other positives, I do think that as we head into the next couple of weeks and months, ESCOM will be procuring emergency power. And the president also indicated that National Treasury will help ESCOM in terms of funding for diesel to run its emergency diesel generators. So we are likely to see the electricity constraint ease, well, hopefully over the next few months, based on everything that was said at the SONA, and hopefully, we're hoping rather that all of these plans get implemented, starting from the Minister of Electricity. However, government has shown in the past that they're quite weak in terms of implementation. So I guess from a business perspective, all we have now is to watch for the budget, or in terms of the National Treasury and Minister of Finance announcing in the budget what the plans are with regards to ESCOM, the tax breaks for households and businesses, and how it's going to support this energy transformation initiative from a fiscal standpoint.
Well, Rizwana, all eyes are going to be on the finance minister next, and what comes out in terms of the budget, and to provide a lot more meat and a lot more context to what the president had said yesterday. So that's something that we will be focusing on, and I'm sure you will be focusing on as well, or looking forward to. But for now, we wish you once again a wonderful Juma, and we appreciate you taking time out and talking to us this morning here on Salam Media. All the best to you, Rizwana. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah, and Imam Mubarak to you and your listeners. Jazakallah for having me. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Rizwana Sumad, economist, with us this morning. Quick break. We'll be back. We come back. We'll be joined by trade union Kosatu.